Hello, my name is Jeff. Welcome to this week's live event. I was thinking of a podcast that I listened to. I didn't intend to emulate their intro, but it kind of worked out that way. This is your live event. The chat is open. Let me click over. Hello, Giuseppe. Hey, and JC's Radiant Ray. Ooh, I love the emoticons. I don't really. I do not excel at emoticons very much. Ronaldo, I hope that you've recovered after your indulgences of yesterday. Everybody, welcome to your live event. This is where we take questions and chat amongst yourselves. There's lots and lots of people that chime in via the chat all the time. So please talk amongst yourselves. Enjoy. I will take questions. And hello, Mandy. And hello, Natasha. Angel. Hey. Brandon. Hey. Andy. Amazing. Okay, well, I'm going to dive in here. There was a couple different things. Sonia, you're very welcome for the soprano warm-ups. It's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. There's a couple things. One, I had a question that... Now, I got to back up for a second here. Thank you. I get a reasonable amount, increasing amount of email and correspondence, which I do my very best to respond. If I have missed your email, please do not be offended. Please try again. I've been rejigging my email so that hopefully fewer things are gonna slip past me. So if I've missed an email, it's not intentional. I'm not blowing you off. I want to assure you. Please send it or try again. If you have been using the contact sheet on jeffrolka.com, that is the best way, because it actually sends an email to a few different accounts of mine, one of which I find is much less likely to filter your question. So please, if I have missed you, please do not be offended. Just try again. One other thing. Question that slipped through the cracks that I haven't addressed, I want to address right now. There was actually two in an email that I received. One was videos on mask resonance. In truth, there are several that address this, and they're throughout the channel. If you watch the quick tip on mask resonance, you can apply that to any warm-up that you're working on. So you can go and watch that quick tip and say, okay, well, Jeff is saying to have a little bit of this. Okay, I'm getting a feeling of what that feels like there, and now I can come back and have a little bit more of that presence, that brilliance in the front mask. But I can see how it would be helpful to have a warm-up where I'm really A-Bing that back and forth. So I will do that. Now I've contradicted myself. But I will, because I was starting off to say, you can actually use the quick tips and then apply those practices into the regular warm-up series, but I'll do that. The other one was improving one's voice as they age. And the thing is that I think we all tend to improve as we continue to refine our game, become better musicians, more understanding musicians, continue to work on our oral skills, continue to work on our overall alignment and the way that we use our voices. However, at a certain age, the elasticity of our muscles, and the vocal fold is operated by muscles just like most of the rest of our bodies, the elasticity of those muscles begins to diminish somewhat. And so the biggest thing you can do to sound good at getting into the far reaches of one's age is to practice now, is to refine that coordination, build the coordination of those muscles, build the parity of the muscles so the cricothyroid muscles are able to elongate the vocal fold very well. And then as we age, we will, though we may at some point in our futures lose some of that elasticity and some of that muscle mass, we'll still retain a good degree where we can still phonate effectively. So I do hope that answers those questions. One bit of unsolicited advice, which I have learned the hard way. You'll notice I'm using a different microphone here. This happens to be a KSM 32. For those of you who are interested in what one sounds like, you can hear what my voice sounds like it right now. This was the first large diaphragm condenser microphone I bought, which was many, many years ago. There are lots and lots of conflicting. This is total studio advice. One more bit of studio advice for those of you who were on the newsletter that saw that, which actually went out way earlier than I thought it was going to. Apparently, I cannot schedule things. But phantom power is 48 volts, which is sent down the microphone cable. Condenser microphones often require phantom power, or they need an inline power source. What it does is it creates an electromagnetic field within the diaphragm. That's the part that vibrates. And oftentimes with condenser microphones, you have these thin sheets of gold-plated materials that can be as little as a few microns in diameter. They're incredibly, incredibly delicate things. And the electromagnetic field compresses gases that are inside of there, and then they vibrate sympathetically with the sounds of my voice or an instrument or whatever you happen to be recording. They're very sensitive. They're sometimes very delicate microphones. And when you turn your phantom power on or off, people spend a lot of money buying systems that have, I forget what it's exactly called, but it means that the power kind of ramps up slowly. Well, I think the interface that I use for these live events doesn't really do that very slowly. And I noticed this because I was watching the VU meters as I was turning it on one time, and I noticed how hard it spiked. I think I killed the 414. I have to send it off. Now to its credit, it took a lot of abuse before it finally gave up the ghost. But I gotta send that off for repair. So I'm using the KSM 32, which hopefully sounds okay, or at least reasonably good. Okay, questions. When I sing along in head voice, I found very uncomfortable come back to talk or sing in chest resonances. Is normal? Yes, it is normal. This is why it's important to practice those really, really long scales. Those long scale exercises are meant to help you integrate the various ranges of your voice. What we say is we get vocalized to a particular range. So when you are just singing and vocalizing all your high stuff, you get vocalized in that area, and then you come back out of it, and it, best case scenarios, it might feel a little bit weird. Best of the worst, I should say. Beyond that, it could be uncomfortable or really awkward. And so it's important, as your overall technique improves through your transition technique, so that you're singing over the secondo passaggio adequately, that you work on integrating all of that and doing larger sweeping scale patterns so that you get practice going from the very bottom of your range through to the very top. It's very evident when I spend a lot of time doing some glissandi until falsetto. Right, exactly. So after a few minutes, I start to feel the muscles around the larynx tired. Dangerous, around the larynx, as long as it's not getting hoarse or sore, that's probably normal. When those muscles begin to get used, and as the surrounding musculature on the larynx is working to stabilize things, you might feel a little bit of, it's a funny old kind of feeling around there. I haven't felt it in a number of years, but as I began to work all these things out, I noticed a little bit of what could only be called muscle fatigue around the sides and the musculature of the neck and the larynx. Again, if you're getting hoarse or sore around the vocal fold, like you're having a hard time talking, then maybe something is not quite right. You're very welcome, Giuseppe. Okay, hello everybody. I said hello, Mandy, Angel, Brandon, Mandy. Scrolling down. Sonia, you're welcome. I said you're welcome already. I apologize. You told me how I could address you, and I'm sorry that I have forgotten your name. If you could please introduce yourself again, I would appreciate that. Divis, long time, haven't watched you. Hey, welcome back. I recall seeing your user ID before. Thank you, and you've asked some cool questions in the past. Maddie, hello. Brittany, long time no talk. Sorry I've been MIA as of late. It's all good. Welcome back. It's good to see you pop up. Vida, hello. Please, can you make some new patterns to warm-ups? Be so cool for sustained voice and holding the notes. Thank you. Love you, Jeff. Thank you very much. I will absolutely do that. I was feeling really self-conscious. I have been feeling really self-conscious for the past couple weeks because I really desperately needed to get the piano tuned. The tuning happened yesterday, and the gentleman who came out was awesome. And did a fantastic job. If any of you need a piano tuner and you happen to be in the Northern California area, you can contact me via jeffrolka.com or voicelessonssf.com. I will happily refer you on to him. He did a beautiful job, was very efficient. I am probably a little bit difficult to tune for. I can be a little persnickety. I'm not weird about it or anything like that, and I'm always certainly very, very kind. But I'm kind of the opinion that you sort of vote with your dollar. So if you come in for a tuning or you tune my instruments and something about it isn't okay with me, then I just will choose someone else next time. But I'll absolutely be having him back. Just everything about it was really, really good, and I really appreciated his efficiency and work and the tuning of the piano. So yes, I will now be doing... first things first is, and I haven't seen Karina pop up yet, but hopefully she will. First things first is the chromatic exercises, which I went and did a quick tip via live stream. Some of you caught that yesterday. It was a little sneaky live stream. And I explained some chromaticism. In brief, basically, I'll show you the scene that I showed yesterday. There's the picture of our scale degrees for the C major scale. And basically what I said in the quick tip is I'm going to start off with the diatonic scale and utilize the chromatic elements that are in the scale. Because if you look there, you'll notice between 3 and 4, there's no black key between notes 3 and 4. And that's a chromatic interval. That's a half step. Same thing exists between 7 and the octave, or 1, however you want to look at it. And I'm going to start by focusing on exercises that hit those things to really get the interval in the ear, and then I'll move on to more truly chromatic aspects to the warm-up. Da 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 da. Morning tenors talk about David Walsh. Tenors talk about Angel. Thank you, Jeff, for tenor warm-ups. You're very welcome. More coming. David Walsh. Tenors talk about flipping the voice as they go to head voice. Do you know what they are talking about? Having computer trouble. Okay, I'm sorry you're having computer troubles. That's always aggravating. Yeah. Flipping is one way of talking about it. I talk about it in terms of singing through the secondo passaggio, or over the secondo passaggio through the zona de passaggio. What they're referring to, and this is really true of all voices. This isn't just tenors. Different Fachs seem to experience it less than others. Different individuals experience less than others. If I start here, when I get to right in there, if I accentuate it, you'll hear my voice flip over the quote-unquote break, or really what it's called is the secondo passaggio. People experience this as a shifting of resonances up. I'm going to just double check that you're actually looking at me and not the piano keyboard. Okay, there you go. That's good. People feel it as flipping. Different singing instructors talk about it in different ways. I ascribe this to a desire to communicate in ways that people understand. Physically what's happening is that the cricothyroid muscles are engaging and they're rotating the hyoid cartilage forward, and it's elongating the vocal fold. As we practice this, it feels less like a flip and more like, well, the longer you go, the less it feels like anything at all. But knowing where that point is helps us to prepare for it and helps us to be ready for that registration event, that transition from thyroarytenoid dominant singing to cricothyroid dominant singing. The flip is I feel, a way of describing when we are first learning how to do that transition. And there is a definitive sensation of the resonance shifting from being, for lack of a better way of putting it, on the body to being in the head. Hence the nomenclature chest voice to head voice. Head voice and chest voice are perfectly acceptable terminology that are used in most fields of vocal pedagogy, but unfortunately the term of head voice has often been conflated to mean falsetto, and that is not accurate. It is possible to be in your head voice range and sing with a falsetto production of your voice by separating the vocal fold, but it is not your falsetto range. And that confusion has led to even more confusion and has made something that's not really that difficult confusing and difficult to understand. I hope that helps. Mandy, I have a question, but trying to find correct wording is hard. It would be easy to misunderstand what I mean. I'm down for that. Natasha, what is roll your voice, and how do you roll your voice? I don't know. That is not is not a term that I use in my teaching, nor has been used in teaching me. I suspect that what they're talking about is to keep things like moving forward, which I describe in terms of airflow and keeping the air moving over the vocal fold, but I'm not so sure. So I don't know. You'd have to describe what's happening a little bit more. Does it mean that I'm a tenor if my voice starts to break into falsetto at E4 through F5? That's over an octave of range. I mean, the falsetto range for the tenor starts around B flat 4, B4, right below C5, give or take on the specifics of the voice. But E4 is typically at or below the secondo passaggio. For E4 would be quite a low tenor. A lowish tenor, let's just say low tenor. But yeah, that spans more than one register of the voice. Sophia Lois, hey, thank you so much for your videos. I was wondering if singers can switch genres. Absolutely. Absolutely, you can switch genres. I would suggest to you that there's two things to consider. One, there's probably going to be a transition period. Okay, so I just said two things, and I'm going to delineate at least three. There's going to be a transition period. I am immediately reminded of Wynton Marsalis, a very famous trumpet player, who used to say that it took him 6 months to fully transition between jazz and classical playing. Just throwing that out there. I would not limit myself to that length of transition, but the intricacies of style sometimes take a while to settle in. Specifically, I'm thinking of rhythm. That was going to be point 3, which I'm now moving to point 2. The intricacies of rhythm and the feel, for lack of a better way of putting it, of the rhythm. That is not to absolve us from counting. I'm a big believer in counting and understanding rhythm in that very intimate fashion. But counting is a way to quantify it. The feel of that count is another thing entirely. Specifically, the eighth note pulse in classical music, as compared to the eighth note pulse in popular music, is very different. And it's more than just the count. It is the sensation of it. But you must go through the counting first. So don't think that I am suggesting that we need not count, or we can somehow go straight to the feel. I do not think we can. I think you have to go through the counting. We must go through the technique. Now that I've spoken all this, oh, right, no, I remember point 2. I was about to say, I forgot my second point. Point 2, in terms of vocal music specifically, and again, I am reminded that I should have made note of this book that a professor with whom I shared a studio with had. The biggest difference between us and the various genres for vocal music is going to be aperture around the larynx. Now, that aperture will also have an impact on how your airflow is regulated. So the subglottic air pressure, your quote-unquote support, is going to change slightly. But much less so, I think, than the actual aperture. And that's going to be the main point. I gotta get that book. There's just no ways around it. I don't know why I'm hesitating to contact the person that I'm thinking of. He is a fine gentleman. and he is totally he's just the nicest dude, and I'm sure he'll tell me the book if he can think of it off the top of his head. So I'm just gonna make a note here. And I gotta find that book because I would benefit from it. We could all benefit from it, and there's no reason not to have it if I can find it. So thank you for bringing that up and reminding me that I need to get that book. I hope that answers your question. Mandy, so I find that my range almost seems bigger and easier to access when I'm performing. For example, I'll practice a song at home and have to practice head voice transition for it. Then I get to perform the song and find that I can actually belt it without a real effort at all. And then alternately, especially on super high falsetto, I can do it perfectly fine in practice, but in live performance it falls apart. Why? And it's not that I want to belt, please understand. I can sometimes hit higher notes in performance without needing head voice at all. No effort. There's a few things at play here, and that's a very good question. And I want to appreciate you for taking the time to think about that and articulate it in that way, because that makes it very easy to answer. Habit is first and foremost. And in to my eyes, you've actually answered your own question. The belting the notes that are near the secondo passaggio, keeping in mind that the distance between the secondo passaggio and the next registration event is only a perfect fourth. It's not really that far. So you're belting notes that are within a major second, maybe even a minor third. So if you've gotten as far as a minor third above your secondo passaggio, well, you're only a major second away from the next registration event at that point. Let me be much more specific. You know what? I'm glad I have that piano thing here. Let me show you. Okay, I'm talking in all these intervals. Okay, so look at number 4. Now, from 4 to the black key that's above number 5, that's a minor third. Now, I wouldn't recommend that you make a habit of belting up to let's call it 5.5, right? When your secondo passaggio is at 4, but you can do it, okay? But now, for the person whose secondo passaggio is at 4, the next registration event is at the black key between 6 and 7. So you're using the energy and the excitement of the stage to belt out those notes that are just above the secondo passaggio. But then when you're getting to the really, really high stuff that is getting on towards that next registration event, or is perhaps, again, just using these numbers as an example, around the 6 mark, everything's breaking up on you because you haven't done the transition smoothly through the secondo passaggio back at 4. You're not set up to be adequately in that near that next registration event. So I hope that answers your question. Basically, when we have to make it a habit of getting through the secondo passaggio, not just so that we have the choice to either sing smoothly over it, where we're right next to it, or belt when we're right next to it, but also so that if we do choose to belt, we still have the coordination available to then make the registration event happen to get those really, really high notes that are too high to belt and are near the next registration event. I hope that answers that question. Okay, Justin, hello, I am a baritone trying to become a tenor. Just started singing. Do you have any advice? I sing in choir that only has a soprano, alto, tenor section, so I often struggle to sing the part. Okay, well, if you are truly a baritone, you cannot become a tenor, but you can emulate one. However, perhaps the most difficult thing for the baritone emulating a tenor is that you have to go against the natural inclinations of your voice. As a baritone, you are going to have far more lush, lovely, low, juicy notes, looking at that piano again, from G3 getting downwards on towards, G2. Like you've got presence down there. You've got mass, beauty, and things that tenors can only dream of. So you have to keep in mind that if you're going to emulate a tenor, You have to sing those notes like a tenor, which is to be a little bit less in volume. Focusing more on the brightness of your voice. If I sing down there, I don't have the baritone configuration for the bigness of it. I have a different way of singing down there, which is focuses on the things that my voice does do. There's a brightness and a crispness and a brilliance to it that I can have there. The baritones can probably emulate that. That is going to make it easier for you to ascend and have a balanced approach to your voice as you get into the zona di passaggio and get ready for the secondo passaggio. Your secondo passaggio will be in a different place than a tenor's will be. And so the lines that you are singing in choir, if they were truly written for tenors, will probably be in rather disadvantageous places as it relates to your secondo passaggio. I guess I'm going to use this all day. Getting back to our keyboard here. Number 1 is on middle C. Most baritone vocalists have their secondo passaggio right around that 2 to 3 marker, between the 2 and the black key there that's right above the number 2. If your secondo passaggio is at a 3, then some are going to call you a lyric baritone and others are going to call you some type of tenor. Just depends on the school of thought you're in. But it's quite likely that those tenor parts that you're singing are all going to hover right in that area. And that means that your registration event technique, it's time to practice that. But also make sure that you're really, really working on your airflow, because the airflow is going to facilitate that and make sure that you stay healthy and sing sustainably. It will be easy to try to squeeze out those notes when you're only changing by a half step or a whole step right there or at the secondo passaggio. That's the break. That's going to induce a lot of fatigue and make life difficult. And worst case scenario is really fatigue your voice in the long term thing. So investigate registration event technique. Look at the How to Sing High Notes videos on my channel. That's what all of that stuff is about. And find out if you're truly a baritone. That may take a little bit of practice if you're doing it on your own. Even if you get with a teacher, be it someone like me via Skype, or if you're in Northern California, you're welcome to come in. Or someone in your local area. Take your time determining fach, because if you rush into it, it's just nothing good comes from rushing into making a determination about your fach. Still feels funny to say fach. Rhymes with Bach. Yeah? Okay. I hope that helps. Fire Sushi. Love that user ID. Is there any way to increase your range? My range is about G to F5 if I really push it. Okay, well, one, if you're pushing, that's how to limit your range. Pushing is not synonymous with getting more range, and that's a pretty awesome range right there. I'm not sure what you're trying to sing that would exceed that, because even thinking about the backing vocal parts, there's only a few examples, and I'm thinking of male vocalists here. There's only a few examples that exceed that, but pushing is not the way to do it. Making smooth transitions through your registration events is the way to do that. Creepy Beautiful, another cool user ID. Thank you so much for your warm-up. You're welcome. Divis, I was practicing AAA method, but I stopped practicing for a long time due to changes of environment. What do you recommend? Starting to practice again? I'm not sure what you mean by your environment. If your environment is inconducive. If you are, I've really got to speed up. Address your environment if you can, and maybe make some shifts there so that you can get back into practicing. I love the way my voice changes. Good. I'm a new subscriber and I want to strengthen my voice. Can you do videos about a clean tone? Almost all my videos are about clean tone. That's what it's all about. Yeah, dive in. The water is fine. Overcomer Ministries, hello. Wade, hey, yes, all is great. Welcome. I haven't seen you pop up in a while. Striker at Creepy. That's a great one. That's a great recommendation. Thank you, Striker. Jose, Thank you very much, Jose. I appreciate that. Baritone, creepy beautiful. My name is Kamel. Welcome, Kamel. Thank you, Striker, for reminding me. It's a good time to do my station identification. The sequencer group is a global voice. Come and find us. My name's Jeff. Thank you if you've chosen to subscribe. I hope you will if you haven't yet. Can you suggest a cheap mic for home recording, for example, under $100? Under $100 gets pretty thin, but Octavia makes some very compelling microphones that are, I think they're like $99. So Octavia would be what I'd look into. Aside from that, if you could maybe save a little bit longer, get a Rode. Those are really, really good mics for the money. And Blue makes a lot of really, really good mics, but those two are getting on for, a bit more. Altug, hello. Creepy Beautiful at Striker. Giuseppe, Jeff, please, can you define the word glassy? Yeah, that's perhaps more a description of a feeling or sensation, and not really a technical term as such. When, again, speaking for myself, when I'm making the transition between my cricothyroid dominant singing voice, my head voice, and my falsetto range, when the vocal fold separates, it feels kind of glassy to me. The vibrations, I suppose it's because the vibrations are going so quickly that it just starts to feel very, very smooth. I don't think that there is a real sensation. I don't think the actual sound gets glassy or anything like that. Let's see how this goes with all the talking I'm doing. So, my secondo passaggio is right about there. And as I get on a little higher, so now, getting on for that B flat and B natural is where my next registration event is. And you can hear I'm not really making the downward transition. I'm letting off too much of my engagement as I descend there. But I am making the registration event into my falsetto range up above that B flat, getting on for C5. And it just feels kind of glassy. There's a smoothness to it when the vocal fold adducts. More than that is difficult to say. But what I would suggest is the super lip trill can really, really help to facilitate that registration event so that you can observe it. At Kamal. I'll talk at Kamel. David, part of what makes you a good teacher is your ability to see how different teachers use different terms to describe the same thing. I admire this very much. Thank you. I really do try my best because I want us to learn, is really the short way of saying that. It's really, really important to me to convey information. And thank you. I truly, truly appreciate it. Elipon, hello. Mr. Elf Elipon, hello. Roberto, hey, it's going well. I would like to hear your knowledge about vocal approximation, which I believe is chord closure compression, how to improve it with exercises or technique. Okay, cool. So the term that I use for chord closure is adduction, and the opposite of that is abduction, separation. So abduction, abduction, separation, adduction, closure. I like short exercises for that. We. When you need to be more challenging, you use an H. He. And we listen for glottal attacks or glottal stops to make sure that we're doing it evenly and with airflow and the muscles at the larynx and not the epiglottis, capping the vocal fold, capping the larynx. And you kind of go from there. Vocal fold adduction and coming to an understanding with it so that you have it and can choose to not use it too, gives us a lot of control over style, because so much of what we hear in popular genres today is abducted, where there's a little bit of air leaking over the vocal fold. But we quickly get into problems if we have too much abduction. So learning to sing with proper chord closure, or as I would prefer to say, adduction, ADD, gives us the choice and gives us the control that we need. Please do not misunderstand control as a forcing of things here. The action items are a feeling of engagement and suspension and an expansion of the rib cage laterally so that we have good subglottic pressure or airflow, and a cultivation of release around the vocal fold. So there is a feeling of balance. There is a lack of a great many things. There's a lack of strain. There's a lack of air or hissing. There's a lack of feeling like there's a squeeze at the vocal fold. As best as I can say it, we're cultivating balance. And I begin that process by listening to the voice on those short exercises and evaluating it. If it's squeezy, or you've got a glottal attack, or a glottal stop, we want to work around those things. We want to remove those items so that we have a balanced approach to phonation, and then begin to do melismatic exercises, elongated vowel sounds. That is what we're doing when we're singing songs. Natasha, okay, so my friend asked me how to roll. She said it is like a natural thing you can do or not, where you are on one, I believe he meant to say tone, and you go a semitone higher and then come back to the same note you were on and is in tune. That sounds like a semitone. That sounds more like a trill. And we just learn to trill by learning where the notes are and learning to have good consistent airflow through a given phrase. So for example, like there's a lot of exercises, there's some exercises on the channel that have this trill in it. Now those happen to be whole steps, but if you, for example, practiced one that went like this, there you have the semitone at the very beginning of the exercise. And I don't like the idea like this. It's this natural thing, because that to me suggests one of the notions around singing that I refute entirely, which is you either have it or you don't. And are we all going to end up being Pavarottis? Probably not. But that doesn't also mean that we cannot improve with practice. So I would dispense with the whole you either can do it or you can't do it, and just get down to practicing semitones and whole step trills and things like that. Always keeping in mind that the voice will adapt more quickly than you can consciously change it. And the action item there is to keep your focus on, again, the airflow and the alignment of vowels too. Because if the vowel changes when you change note, then your alignment is slipping, and that will prevent you from being in tune. Altug at Mandy. Altug saying hello to Stryker. Stryker Kane and Natasha. Brittany T, do you have any belting exercises or exercises to sing louder? Volume, as I am fond of saying, is the natural consequence of a well-aligned and well-supported system. So, in effect, by practicing your airflow and your vowel alignment, you will be enhancing the resonant qualities of your voice, and by default, you will be getting louder. I don't focus specifically on loud singing because the top volume changes depending on what range you are in. Not your Fach, but what range of your voice, if you're lower down or higher up. There are some belting exercises that are on the channel, but I'm not really a huge advocate of belting, and so as such, I don't have very many. You could, however, if you choose to belt, use any of the videos that are slightly higher than you currently sing, Or, for that matter, actually, they don't have to be higher because I recommend not belting beyond a major second above your personal secondo passaggio. So if you are a mezzo or a soprano or something like that, if you're a mezzo and your secondo passaggio is at E flat 5, well, do the exercises belting up to F5, but just stop. Don't go beyond that point is my personal recommendation. That, to me, seems a reasonable range where you're not going to strain your voice too much immediately. If you do that all the time, I feel that you will, over time, induce quite a lot of fatigue and strain in your voice. And my recommendation is to alternate that practice with transitional techniques so that you're making a smooth transition over the secondo passaggio. That has much more sustainability and is a much more even use of your voice in the long term. Michael, hey, how to make sure that I'm buying original one, not fake Shure SM57 used. A lot of fake ones from China. That's I'm afraid that I don't know how to advise you in that. Honestly, I would just wait. Like music stores have those things on sale all the time, and they're just not that expensive. For a microphone like that. But that being said too, buying used gear is great. Most of my equipment is used. But you kind of take your chances. I'm afraid I really don't know how to advise you to make sure it's not fake. Everything that I can think of could probably be faked. But for what it's worth, most of those microphones are built with off-the-shelf components, meaning all the transistors, resistors, capacitors, all the internal guts. These things are not special. They're just off-the-shelf componentry. So the fake one from China would probably be just as good or the same as the one made by Shure. It's just that they made it for a lot cheaper, and so their profit margins are higher, and you're basically paying somebody for that. More than that, I just can't say. Also, do you think that everyone's passaggio is within a perfect fourth? So the zona de passaggio is a perfect fourth in width. That's not my opinion. That's as it's stated by Richard Miller. I'm sure that there are exceptions to that exist in the world where a minor second here, a minor second there elongates it. But that's pretty much the accepted width of the distance between passaggi points. Not really much else to say about that. Like I said, when it comes to human beings, there's always an exception. So anytime anybody says it's always this way, they're probably wrong. And furthermore, it's not as if everyone sings. Many singers are quite well aware of where their secondo passaggio is, but most of us sing past. If we've had any amount of vowel alignment practice and any amount of airflow practice, most of us sing straight past the primo passaggio without much thought at all. In fact, about a year and a half, or I don't know how long ago it was. It feels like it was 2 years ago, but it probably wasn't that long ago. I had a discussion with someone in the comments section whereby, I had been singing for such a long time that I was erroneously labeling my own primo passaggio point as being higher than what it was. But for most tenors, their primo passaggio is around C4, C sharp 4, depending on the specifics of their Fach. But we'll all sing past it without any real vowel modification, without any sense of a changeover point of any kind. And I was mistakenly labeling D for E flat 4 as my primo passaggio, because that's the point when I start to notice that I need to widen the narrower vowels in order to keep air flowing adequately over the vocal fold. Yeah. I'll tug it. Mandy, Natasha at Stryker. Mandy, yes, that helped a bit. You know the song I'm talking about specifically here, and for the most part was perfect. Transitioned really well and did not belt. Congratulations. The high notes, though, cracked up. Yeah, the stage has a way of doing things. It's true. And I find that it happens sometimes on other songs. Don't know if I'm actually just gaining volume because of stage adrenaline. You might be pushing a bit from the stage. Also, depending on your monitor setup, that can also have an impact on how much force you are applying to the voice. Striker Kane at Natasha. Mandy. Hi, Striker. Mandy at Altug. Mandy at Altug. Altug. Hi, Mandy. Natasha at Striker. Whoa! Altug at G4. I'm in complete head voice. What fuck would I be? Again, if that's the first note that is entirely within head voice, then that's well within the tenor realm. Depending on the specifics of the transition point, it could be tenor spinto, tenor robusto. I think the held in tenor is lower than that, which I think is synonymous with tenor robusto. There's like half a dozen different tenors. The one thing you're not, probably, the lyric tenor has the transition point a little higher, as does the leggero tenor might fall into that category as well. Your category, I'm not entirely sure. I have to look that one up on the specifics of it. And also the light tenor or tenorino, but their transition point, their head voice would begin at A4. Mandy, yes, Altug, I do practice that transition. Aaron, and I forgot to mention too, I do try to get to everybody. I do have a hard stop today because I have a meeting at 11 a.m. So I'm going to try and go through this as quickly as I can. So I'm going to enter my speed round. Please, I do apologize for my brevity. Aaron, how do I have a chestier mixed voice? Focus on airflow and alignment of vowels. The resonance of the vowels is going to make it match more closely. Justin, thank you. You're welcome. Mr. Elfapelian, do you have lessons for bel canto? My lessons are based on bel canto technique, though they are skewed towards popular vocal delivery. Altug at Mandy. Michael, did you move to the U.S.? No, I've relocated back to Northern California. Ming, any tips on how to make head voice sound chest-like? Just answered that. Blue Yeti is pretty good for 100. There you go. Dylan Klein, no audio interface required. Yeah, the USB mics are okay. That's true. That's a good point. That's a very good point, Dylan Klein Music. Maddie Hendricks, I've been working on this false sense of control I have in my voice. I've heard so much about controlling the voice, breath control, etc. My teacher and I have been working on releasing my voice, letting it do what it wants, and it really is starting to blossom. Yes, control gets talked about a lot. I try to avoid talking about it because really the notion of controlling our voice is counterproductive. Also get Maddie. Super Aced, hello. Striker at Maddie. Raphael Albuquerque, hello. Hope you're well. I love watching videos. Thank you. Mandy at Altug. Mr. Mac 2121. Yo, any tips on how to keep the same color throughout your whole range? Focus on alignment and airflow and a smooth transition through the secondo passaggio. Again, I apologize for the lightning round here, but I really want to try and get to everybody, even if I only have to get you in brief. Mr. Mac 2121, the end video for that process are the long scale videos. The beginning process are the how to sing high notes videos. Roberto, thank you for your advice. You're very welcome. Natasha, you're welcome. Also, get Mandy. Mandy, I think I'm louder now than I was before I started lessons, so I'm getting accustomed to managing that too. Thank you. You're very welcome. Always a pleasure. Also, get Mandy. Maddie at Ulcho. Also, get Mandy. Maddie at Striker. Also, get Maddie. Michael, you're welcome. This is really actually kind of fun. Overcomer Ministries at Alcub. Altug, Sequencer Facebook, thank you for reminding me again. Striker at Maddie. Altug, yes. Same for me, I feel the first passaggio at E flat 4. Yeah, but that's not really correct. That's where the vowels are starting to change shape a little bit, but the primo passaggio is lower than that. If your secondo passaggio is around F sharp, if you're feeling like you are absolutely entirely in head voice at G4, which would be consistent in most tenors, the secondo passaggio is probably right below that. Striker, laughing out loud, I think we lost Jeff in our private conversations again. It's all right. You can always watch me later. Striker at Altug, super aced. Stay well, Jeff. Love your vids. Thank you. Stay well too. Mr. Mac 2121, how to lower your head voice. Interesting question. Hey, I made it to the end. Awesome. And I've still got time to spare. Cool. Yeah, okay. So, there's a kind of a lower boundary there that I want you to be careful of. And keep in mind too that pulling the head voice down is in some respects just as counterproductive as pulling the chest voice up. It's probably not as taxing on the voice. But I mean, and of course, Bon Iver is, based an entire career on bringing his cricothyroid dominant singing voice lower down. So, I can dig it. I guess the thing is make sure you're just staying light. Like if I bring my, I'm going to really favor a cricothyroid dominant sound because I know I want to stay in that mode of my voice. If you listen really carefully, you can hear there's a little abduction, there's a little separation of the vocal fold that's occurring in there. So yeah, be sensitive to it and be gentle with your voice. Yeah, Mandy, this has been a really, really fun session. My secondo passaggio is at middle C, so that would indicate a rather low voice. But the process would be the same to continue down from there. Just be very gentle, favor the cricothyroid dominant singing voice, allow for a slight amount of abduction or separation of the vocal fold as you continue your descent. Don't push it. Be gentle. Mandy Cummins, okay, one non-music related question. When is my birthday? Fully understand you'd rather keep it right. I don't mind at all. It's the 5th of December, December 5th. A very, very long time ago. One thing we miss on Sequencer, Jeff, is the deeper conversations and input from experts. Altug's topic is one very topic amongst us. I know. Well, I don't have any other. I mean, I pop in from time to time. Not as much as I mean to by any stretch of the imagination. And thus far, we don't really have other people from the vocal world chiming in. But, maybe one day they will. I've actually been contemplating moving us to a different platform. Mostly, I have mixed feelings about Facebook in general, and while I want it to be accessible to as many people as possible, it seems like people have a really hard time finding it anyway. And there's a platform that a podcast that I'm fond of uses. I'm going to investigate it a little bit, and then I might bring it up on Sequencer, and we might test it out, and then we'll see what we think. If nothing else, hopefully it'll be easier to find and we won't have to look at adverts all the time. Ming, bringing head voice down sounds like countertenor. And that is the sort of discipline of voice that I adhere to, that they don't treat the countertenor as a fa. They treat it as an affectation, which is what I was just showing you there. JC's Radiant Ray, Jeff, will you arrange again an event where we get to sing for each other? Yes. An excellent idea. Mandy Cummins, I agree with that with Stryker. Roberto, will this video be up on YouTube later to watch again? Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you so much. You're very, very welcome. Laughing out loud, you're not that old. Oh, I might surprise you. Only 10 years on me. I don't know. I'm not sure how old you are. I am a poor judge of age. The Facebook group being private may be reason for low attendance. Yes, it's a closed group, but it's not private. You can still search and find it. At least I thought you could. I will double check that, but it should show up in search results. So people that interact with us here should very easily be able to find it, but that hasn't always been the case. Ooh, sorry about that. Um, but anyways, I want to explore this other platform anyway. So I'm going to investigate that and then we can talk about it more. I want to do Christmas songs for the group. Any requests? You're 35. You hit the nail on the head, Mandy. You got it. Just like that. Striker Cam 48. So you're not so ancient. That's Troy. I'm just a little bit younger than you. Just a very, very little amount. Group name. The sequencer is the Facebook group. If we do migrate over to the other platform, I think I'll try to keep sequencer a global voice if I can, because I'm happy with that. But I don't know if the platform's viable yet. Cool, Striker. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm down with that, Altug. It is just a number, man. It's more about attitude too. So from my part, just always being willing to continue to learn and to think about things. It's not so. It's learning, and we would call this learning, I think, but I feel like it needs like a different title, which is that there's learning and there's also taking preconceived notions and thinking about them differently. That one I think deserves some kind of special title because it takes a real special skill to look at something that you accept as fact and say, this is no longer, I'm actually questioning this and I am going to possibly change that. Like a virtual choir. We could all say, choose a song in a key, BPM, and everyone could record themselves singing it in video and then put it all together. That would be awesome, Mandy. And I could easily do that too if you send... let me think about that. It's like that virtual choir thing. Oops, 6 more. Yeah, I'm not sure what that means. Anyways, folks, I do have to wrap this up. Thank you so much. This has been awesome. I know I'm getting out of here a few minutes early. Mr. Mac 2120, thank you. I appreciate that. Everyone, thank you so much. This was so much fun. I had that science. Okay. That's awesome. Okay. I guess it's already got a name. Then I guess I need to take my own advice and think differently about thinking differently, knowing that it actually has a title from before. Have a great week. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you so much. I love this Christmas song idea. Let's absolutely do this. I think we should do parts too, though, so we can get like different parts and things. I think it would be so amazing. So let's do this. Thank you all. Have a wonderful week. Take really good care of your voices. Enjoy singing, and I will see you next week. Bye.